The ocean feels endless, open, without walls, without borders, without ownership. But that is only what we see. Beneath the surface, the world's oceans are divided, measured, governed. Every kilometer matters. Every boundary carries consequences. Because a line drawn across the sea can determine access to oil, natural gas, critical minerals, fishing grounds, and military influence. The ocean is not empty. It is organized, quietly, precisely, and almost entirely through law. For thousands of years, the sea belonged to whoever could sail it. Empires expanded across water. Merchant fleets crossed continents. Navies protected trade. But as technology evolved, the value of the ocean changed. Oil was discovered beneath the seabed. Gas fields became strategic assets. Industrial fishing expanded across entire regions. Submarine cables connected continents. Suddenly, the ocean was no longer empty space. It became infrastructure. And infrastructure demanded rules. Not to remove conflict, but to manage it. Because when nations compete, law often becomes the first battlefield. In this episode, we are not exploring naval warfare. We are not exploring piracy. We are exploring something far more powerful: the rules that decide who owns opportunity. Because before a nation drills for oil, it must establish jurisdiction. Before a company invests billions offshore, it must understand legal certainty. Before warships enter contested waters, they calculate international law. By the end of this episode, the ocean will no longer look empty. It will look like one of the most sophisticated legal systems ever constructed. For centuries, the ocean was described as free, a place beyond borders, beyond governments, beyond permanent ownership. It sounded simple, but reality became far more complicated. As technology advanced, the sea revealed hidden value: oil beneath the seabed, gas trapped below continental shelves, massive fisheries, critical shipping lanes, submarine communication cables. The ocean was no longer empty, it became productive. And once something becomes valuable, someone will eventually claim it. Freedom slowly gave way to jurisdiction. Not because nations wanted more water, but because they wanted control over what the water contained. Imagine standing on a coastline. The beach ends. The water begins. It feels impossible to know where one country's authority ends and another begins. Yet international law attempts exactly that. Not with walls, not with fences, but with measured distance. Territorial seas, contiguous zones, exclusive economic zones, continental shelves. Each layer grants different rights, different responsibilities, different limitations. To the naked eye, nothing changes. The waves remain the same. But legally, crossing a single invisible line can change everything. To reduce uncertainty, the international community built a framework, a common language for the oceans. the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, often called UNCLOS. It does not eliminate disputes. It does not erase geopolitical rivalry, but it provides something equally important: predictability. Because investors require certainty, shipping companies require stability, energy companies require legal clarity. Without shared rules, every offshore project becomes a political gamble. UNCLOS became something remarkable, not merely a treaty, but an operating system, quietly supporting global commerce, without most of the world ever noticing. Before the 20th century, most nations looked toward the land. Territory meant mountains, rivers, forests, cities. But technology changed the equation. Suddenly, the most valuable resources were no longer on the surface. They were beneath the sea: oil, natural gas, rare minerals, industrial fisheries. The ocean transformed, not physically, but economically. Water became territory, not because countries wanted the water itself, but because of everything hidden below it. That changed diplomacy, that changed investment, and eventually that changed geopolitics. Because whoever controls the surrounding waters often controls the resources beneath them. The law provides structure, but structure does not guarantee agreement. Sometimes, two countries interpret the same coastline differently. Sometimes, history conflicts with geography. Sometimes, politics ignores legal boundaries altogether. That is where disputes begin. Not because the ocean changed, but because interpretation changed. A single island can influence thousands of square kilometers of surrounding waters. A single reef can affect access to energy, fishing, navigation, and military positioning. This is why maritime disputes rarely begin with warships. They begin with maps, because before nations deploy fleets, they first defend a legal argument. International law creates expectations, but expectations require enforcement. A treaty can define boundaries. It cannot patrol them. A convention can recognize rights. It cannot guarantee compliance. That responsibility still belongs to states. And this reveals one of the oldest realities in international politics. Law and power are not opposites. They exist together. Law creates legitimacy. Power creates enforcement. Without law, order becomes difficult. Without power, law becomes fragile. The modern international system survives because both continue balancing one another, sometimes successfully, sometimes not. Most people see the ocean as nature. But modern civilization sees something else: infrastructure. Not because the water changed, but because humanity assigned rules to it. Rules determine where ships travel, where cables are laid, where companies invest, where energy is extracted, and where nations project influence. The ocean did not become valuable because someone discovered water. It became valuable because law transformed uncertainty into predictable order. And wherever predictable order exists, commerce follows, investment follows, prosperity follows. That may be the greatest achievement of international maritime law, not creating ownership, but creating enough certainty for civilization to expand across the sea. The next time you look at the ocean, you may still see waves, you may still see ships, You may still see an empty horizon, but beneath that horizon, another world exists. A world of invisible boundaries, legal jurisdictions, economic interests, strategic calculations. Every vessel crossing the sea is also crossing layers of international law. Every offshore platform stands on more than steel. It stands on legal recognition. Every submarine cable depends on agreements that most people will never read. The modern ocean is not empty. It is organized, carefully, patiently, almost silently. And perhaps the greatest structures in civilization are the ones we cannot see. Today, we explored the rules beneath the ocean, but this is only one layer of a much larger system, because every market, every corporation, every currency, every technology, and every nation operates inside an architecture of rules. In the next episode, we leave the legal boundaries of the sea and examine another hidden structure where geography alone can reshape the global economy. If you want to understand how order is designed before power is exercised, subscribe to LEXERA, because every system begins with a rule. Civilizations are not held together by concrete alone. They are held together by systems, rules, institutions, infrastructure, invisible frameworks that allow billions of people to cooperate without ever meeting. The more clearly we understand those frameworks, the more clearly we understand power itself. Because power is rarely hidden, its architecture is. This is LEXERA, Decoding Order, Architecting Power.